You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, isn't it?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off Day with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities, Friday, March 6th. Thank you guys so much for joining us on a rainy, dreary day here in the Quad Cities, and I'm sure around the state of Iowa and Illinois as well. A gloomy Friday, bad way to start the week. I guess some severe weather maybe on the way to this evening, so no better way to get through your Friday than to hang out with us here on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. We've got a great show lined up for you today. If you're watching us live on YouTube, welcome. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate you for doing that. If you have subscribed, thank you. If you have not subscribed, please do so ASAP. It helps us out a ton. We're also live on X as well. Make sure you're interactive with the show. We have great ways to stay interactive. There's a chat on YouTube that we're talking on and chatting on every single day, and great guests today. So if you want to hop on and ask questions, all those kind of things, do so via the chat. Also, same thing on X as well. We're also on all the podcasting platforms as well. So whether it's Spotify, iHeart, Apple, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast, if you go to Off Day with Matt Randazzo, you can listen to the show. Whether you're working out, driving kids around at night, whatever you're doing, check out the show later in the evening as well on the audio platforms as well. And then, as always, welcome to our guests, or I shouldn't say our guests, our viewers in Central Iowa. We are on the WHO streaming app every single evening as well. A lot for you guys tonight because it was an interesting night in the state of Iowa when it comes to basketball. Also, the Iowa women, a big game coming up tonight as well. So we've got a lot for you guys tonight on the show as well. If you missed any of our shows this week, go back, check them out. Of course, Monday, no show. I was at the visitation for Father Marabelli, so no show for us on Monday, but Tuesday we had Ked Prince talking Illinois, Trent Condon talking Iowa, the Riverdale's boys basketball team on Tuesday. Wednesday, we had Kyle Huseman, the Macokota girls, Bristol Lewis from Platteville, a lot that day as well. Yesterday, Nicholas Bear, Jim Matson, Courtney Walls, the state champion from Rock Island on the wrestling mats, and Tanner Lefevre. Got us set up for a big weekend of wrestling. So if you missed anything on all of those shows, go back and check them out as well. But do that later. We've got a full show for you to get to today, a lot to get to on your Friday. A star-studded show is what I like to say, because coming up in a matter of moments, we'll be joined by the athletic Scott Dochterman, one of the good dudes in the business. And we have a lot to get to with Scott. Obviously, he was at Carver Hawkeye Arena last night. I was at Carver Hawkeye Arena last night. So we'll talk about that Iowa-Michigan game, break that down for you. Also, Scott spent, I think, nearly a week in Indianapolis last week with the NFL Combine. A lot of Hawkeyes doing really good things, so we'll talk with him about that and the Combine in general, what stood out to him. NFL is fast and furious on everyone's mind, so a lot to get to with Scott Dochterman. That's coming up in just a matter of moments. Also on today's show, we'll be joined by Rob Brooks. He's in Indianapolis getting ready for the Iowa Hawkeyes quarterfinal game for the ladies tonight against a very familiar foe. The Illini women will play Illinois tonight, 5:30 start in Indianapolis. Question marks around the game, who's playing, who's not, all those kind of things. We're going to get the latest from Rob Brooks coming up later on in the show as well. And then normally Wednesdays we chat with Jake Brend. He's tan, vacationed, all that kind of stuff. He was out in Arizona. He's going to join us in the second hour of the show to talk some Cyclones as well. Senior day coming up for them. The Cyclones have lost 3 out of 4, and the women lost last night as well. So kind of the outlook for Iowa State basketball, men's and women's, as we get ready for the NCAA tournament and conference play or conference tournaments and It's March. March is crazy. It's an awesome time of year. Hopefully you guys are ready for it as well. So a jam-packed show. When you go Scott Dochterman, Rob Brooks, Jake Brend, I might as well just leave and let them do the show because really some good guests today on the show. We mentioned Iowa City last night. The Hawkeyes nearly did it. They nearly pulled the upset, losing to Michigan 71-68. At Carver Hawkeye. Bennett Sturts had 21 points, 4 assists, struggled shooting the basketball yesterday, or last night, I should say. 21 points, 7 of 23 shooting, 4 of 14 from the field. Just a lot of in and out. A tough shooting night for him. But they got a great effort from Can Manyao. He had 14 points and 8 rebounds. So I didn't love the referees as well. We'll talk about that with Scott Dochterman coming up in a minute. The Illini women winning last night. We mentioned they'll play Iowa today. They beat Michigan State 71-69. 5:30 tonight. We'll preview that coming up. Shauna Green became the second winningest coach in Illinois women's basketball history. One, shows how great a job she's done. Just her 4th season. So an amazing job. I think her 82nd victory, but also shows where she took the program over and the struggles of Illinois women's basketball. So what a great matchup. Coach Jensen versus Coach Green. It should be great tonight. Again, Rob Brooks coming up later on in the show as well. And then high school-wise, we're down to one team in this area, but the state tournament's going on all over the place for the ladies, both sides of the river. And hats off to Makokata. They're on the show on Wednesday. They win in the state semifinals. They trail by as many as 14, I believe, at one point in the game. They come back, they win 61-54 over Des Moines Christian. Cora Waddell had 18 points, 8 rebounds. 6 players fouled out in the game. 3 starters for each team. So really a weird game. But Makokata will play for a state championship tonight at 8 p.m. Against number 1 ranked Mount Vernon. So if you're like me, I think I got one little thing I got to do for one of my kids, but it's Iowa, Illinois at 5:30. That game gets done, and then turn your attention to the Makokata girls. Watch them. Other great basketball as well. So if it's storming and nasty and the weather's not great, stay inside on a Friday night. Be a loser like me on a Friday night. I'm usually running around after kids, and that'll start up again soon. But with basketball season over, I got plenty to watch tonight when it comes to some really good basketball. We joked yesterday to start the show that something crazy will happen in the NFL, and then we talked about DJ Moore is officially a Bill. The Bears trade him to the Bills. They give up a 5th-round pick as well. They get a 2nd-round pick as well. A lot of people go around and they're like, hey, did you see the Bears got a 2nd for DJ Moore? They got a great deal for DJ Moore, but they got a 2nd for a 5th and DJ. So a little different, but and then they cut Tremaine Edwards last night. So they have plenty of money to spend, and by the end of the show, we'll probably have some news in the NFL that's breaking as well. So a great time of year when it comes to the NFL, and it's not even NFL season as well. So a lot to get to, but we're going to start with a guy that does it at a high level and has done it at a high level for a long time. The Athletics, Scott Dochterman, right here at Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. What a perfect day to have this guy on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Scott Dochterman from The Athletic joins me. Scott, I wanted to chat with you about the Combine, and we're going to get to that. But you and I watched a really good basketball game at Carver Hawkeye Arena last night. Then you come out with these rivalry rankings, which is it's like crack to a Big Ten basketball fan. Like, I love those kind of things. Thank you for taking the time on a Friday to chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. It's always great to talk to you and see you in person at Carver last night, and I hope everything's going well for you in the great Quad Cities.
It is. It's great. I guess we'll start with Carver Hawkeye last night. I think a lot of Iowa fans came in, I would say, with a pessimistic attitude. It was a tall task to beat Michigan. Iowa comes up just short. I think Iowa fans this morning are like, okay, that was a great effort. You were in the post game. They're not into close is cool kind of stuff. Yeah. Your thoughts of maybe the game itself and then the attitude afterwards of Iowa, where they weren't content with being close.
Yeah, there are no moral victories certainly when you're competing in the Big Ten, and no matter where you are. But ... this was a heck of an effort. I mean, you're playing the number 3 team in the country that really is, to me, it's a very much a challenger to cut down the nets on the final Monday night. It has everything you want as a program. I mean, it has great size, great backcourt, incredible defense. They did not play all that well, I would say. They survived on the road in the Big Ten, and now they're the first team to go undefeated on the road in the Big Ten in 50 years. Wow. But they had to really fight and battle to do it. And for them, it may have been a trap game, but for Iowa, I thought this was this really showed some bounce back, heart, fight, and determination because of the way they played on Saturday, which was probably their worst game of the year. You lose it at Penn State, the team that's in last place. And I think it needed this kind of performance to prove to themselves that they are capable of competing and winning games later this month. Because if, let's say it's a 22-point loss, which would have been entirely within what people might have thought, it's like, 82-60 or something like that, because you're playing one of the best teams in the country, then you're probably going, yeah, well, then they go to Nebraska. That's going to be difficult. Then maybe you're playing in the first round and you might win that game. And then in the Big Ten tournament, then you lose to Ohio State and maybe you're in Dayton, maybe you're a 10 seed or an 11 even. And then you just don't know if the momentum can be there. But I thought that last night would give me hope as an Iowa fan for a lot of reasons. First, that you feel like, okay, maybe they have a puncher's chance of winning a game, or dare I say 2 in the NCAA tournament. And then, and also for the future, because that took incredible coaching to put them in a position to where they could compete with that team. And now, granted, a lot of the pieces are going to change this offseason, Bennett Sturtz being top among them, but he didn't have a great shooting night. I mean, he was, he took 23 shots and only made 7, but you could see how he's building this team and the way he wants it done, and without a true center, without a true shooter, and really no slashers, he's able to compete with one of the best teams in the country. And then probably the most encouraging thing to me broadly as a program, that crowd brought it last night. I mean, the students have been there this year. They haven't been there for a long time consistently. And I think having those risers right off the end line, to me, right behind the basket have been great. But when they had that steal and dunk really early, it hit 116 decibels. Wow. I mean, that place was rocking. And there were times when it got up to 114 and throughout. And I thought, okay, this gives me hope for an Iowa program that has been floundering. Apathy swarmed the program. Now you've got a coach in place who has a system. You've got a crowd and a fan base that's motivated to play well. Now you just have to kind of marry them together, because this is the first year, only one returnee, and he didn't play last year. Yeah. So I think out of this group, you're looking at a program that's got a chance to do some really good things in the future.
It's funny what a difference a year makes. I talked to some people at Carver after the game last night, and they probably weren't as into the NCAA tournament picture last year at this time as they are this year, but they still, I mean, just the environment of that building, I think speaks volumes. Yes, you can look at wins, losses, and NCAA tournament versus not making the NCAA tournament. And there's ways to measure success for the Iowa basketball team. I think a huge way to measure success for the Iowa basketball team this year, or program, is the environment, the crowd. Because if Carver still had 13,000 people there last year, I don't know if the coaching change is as prevalent as what it was. It was the depths of the fan base maybe that had it to where it was. Doc, you look at it, and boy, you mentioned Bennett, and you want to say struggles. Boy, I've never seen a ball go around I've heard of in and outs and around and out, but there was one that went like around 4 times and then out. I mean, he wasn't playing bad. It just wasn't his night early. And I sat there at halftime and I said, made a couple threes late, but there was a point where, 3 minutes left to go in the first half. He had 2 points and Iowa was in the basketball game. Doc, if I told you that yesterday, if I said, hey, Bennett Sturtz is going to have 2 points with like 3 minutes left to go in the first half, and they're going to be tied at halftime, you would have taken it every single day. I thought people stepped up besides Bennett. Cam Maniau was one of those guys that just played really well. It was a grindy team effort. Kind of talk about that because, Bennett's going to get – you knew Michigan. Boy, Michigan and every team focuses on Bennett, but they had every purpose of taking him out, and other guys stepped up, which was good to see.
They attacked him. They knew that he was the guy. You could tell by the way, as aggressive as they were defensively. Cadeau is a great on-ball defender, and that was kind of his charge. He only took 3 shots, but he shot a lot from the free throw line. But it was like attack him, and then flip, and then go Lindeberg, and then sometimes Johnson, and it was like this is the guy that could beat us. And I mean, to have that kind of endurance to play 40 minutes against the best team in the Big Ten, certainly, if not in the country, and to continue to bring it was impressive. I mean, and here's the thing. This team, what frustrates me is it's kind of like 25 seconds of fear and 5 seconds of panic sometimes on offense, where it's like everybody's passing the ball, and it's not that they're trying to get a bigger shot. It's just that they're not trying to get a shot. And then all of a sudden it's like, bail us out. And when you've got that kind of defense, he was taking off balance shots. I'm not going to blame him when there's 3 seconds left on the clock and he's got to chuck up a 3 that's really, more of a wish than it is a really good attempt. And that's probably been the most frustrating thing to me of this season is, Alvaro Figueras. I mean, let's face it, in today's world, we can be a little bit more critical in some ways of players. I mean, you're coming here for a reason. And when you're minus 16 this week and you're minus 15 against Penn State, you're a guy that's heavily compensated and you're not doing anything. You need to help him out. You've got the skill set to help him out, and you're not. And then, of course, Brendan Hassan not even getting into the game, and he's another big money ticket guy. And it's like, but I'll say this though, with the players that they have, Maniau came to play, man. I mean, he's like, I'm going to prove something, because Mara, he's 7'2", 7'3".
And he is, right? Like, being by him, that dude is enormous.
Yes.
Go ahead, Doc. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's just amazing how how big they are. But then, and it's not just him. I mean, Lindeborg and Johnson are men, and Maniau just fought and fought. I mean, to get 8 rebounds against another team, that's like 15 rebounds to me. I mean, just because his 5 were offensive rebounds. I mean, are you kidding me? It was just a great effort. And I thought Tavian Banks, even though he, got in some foul trouble, also 8 points, 6 rebounds. He fought really hard. They want to bring Combs in for defensive purposes. You can see that too. But it's just, you can also see the differences in how to, talent wise, it's really night and day. Yeah. And the 2 games that were coming to mind for me, and I'm like, if Iowa wins this, it reminds me of 2 different games. One was football against Michigan in 2016, when Michigan was like 2 or 3 in the poll, undefeated 9-0, came to Kinnick, and they pulled that one out because that offense was, as we know, pretty challenged. And then last year with women's basketball against USC, because they were really kind of floundering at that point. And then Lucy Olson took over the game, and they were able to win on Caitlin Clark's day. And I thought this has the same vibe. And then, at the very, very end, Sturtz had a nice look. It was a deep one, but it was a nice one, and he just about nailed it. And if that would have went in, that place would have been set on fire.
Doc, you look at it and you talk about the 25 seconds and then 5 seconds of fury. They sometimes pass up good shots and end up with bad shots, if that makes any sense. There was a time where Alvaro went right down the lane and the crowd got excited because there was going to be something at the rim. And he might have, and yes, Michigan has and that's the thing about being 7'2", 7'3", whatever he is, he's in there. So sometimes you pass up just because you don't want to see your ball go flying into the bleachers. But they sometimes patched up good shots and then ended up with a bailout shot towards the end. I think that was some of the frustration with fans. Another thing that was frustrating for fans, I am not, Doc, and I repeat, I'm not a blame the officials guy. I'm just not. It was tough to watch at some points. I've had buddies texting me like they're protecting the number 1 seed and what I get, but it felt like the whistles were I'm trying to be nice, unequal, or just they, especially on the defensive end for Iowa. It was a physical Big Ten basketball game, and I don't think your thoughts on the officiating, one, and then two, Doc, I complain more to a referee in the first quarter of a 5th grade basketball game that I'm head coaching than Ben does all night. And I mean that I love Ben McCullum. This is not like, but like I don't, and I watched because I'm like, Fran, you tweet. I think you either tweeted it or Hassel did, and you talked with him about it. But like, Fran would have been gone by the second half. So I guess your thoughts on the officiating, and then maybe the way Ben handles the officials. He's a lot nicer gentleman than I would have been.
No question about it. I think at one point the foul disparity in the second half was 11-3. I think the game was equally physical on both ends. It was just called against Iowa. And that was kind of tough to see because as physical as Michigan was, and as we know, we look at them and it's sometimes it's like watching like a 4A team against a 2A team, just in build, if nothing else. And so I'm like, how is Iowa getting called for these? And whereas Michigan isn't, I just find that really strange. And I did tweet out, I said, Fran would have been gone 2 media timeouts ago, with this. And I wouldn't have blamed him because there was one time where he kind of did lose it, but he did it in a better way. I think he should have really taken it out on the officials and potentially gotten a T. I think that you needed to send that message at some point. And there was one during a TV timeout where he's working one of the officials and he walks away and he has a clipboard in his hand. And he just goes like that and punches it and it flies through the air and everything. And I get it because it was frustrating. It brings in those discussions and those thoughts of, oh, did Tony Petitti call the officials at halftime? Make sure to protect Michigan, make sure they get a number 1 seed. I mean, it's not true, but still, you still feel that way. And I think, and then I remember, I don't know, Michigan got a foul call on them and there was a standing ovation, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And then for the last about 8 minutes, it came pretty even, I think, in that regard. But you think you're like, hey, we're at home, and you have 22 fouls, they only have 14. They're the more physical team, built physically. I agree that and there was a one point, I think it was when they were down 7 or 10 or something, where I just went, get your T, man. You're gonna have to light them up because this is. There's a disparity and it's obvious and you don't like to see that.
The one thing I always thought was funky this year was, Bennett is an All-American and probably first team All Big Ten guy. And he doesn't seem to get the fouls that like All-Americans usually get. And I think there was one point where it was right after Isaiah Howard got called for just playing defense, it looked like.
Yeah.
And they reached in and like Bennett even looked at the referee like, Did you not see that one? Because they slapped right at him. So a little funky. And like Michigan doesn't need the help. I think that's something I texted a buddy is like, they don't need the help. They're super talented. They don't need any help from anybody else. I want to talk to you about the end of the game real fast because, I've talked about it with maybe Tom, maybe Tyler Tashman. Ben likes to call timeouts to set up his defense. I talked with Nicholas Bear about it yesterday on the show, and I understand it, and he's a much better basketball mind than I am. But he called the timeout with like 56 seconds left, whatever it was, and it almost allowed Dusty May to draw up a really nice, I think Mara came up to set the screen, refused it real fast, and dove for a lob. I think they scored in 10 seconds, 12 seconds. And then they didn't use the timeout maybe late in the game, didn't get a shot when with all that said and done. Your thoughts on just like the last minute, and it's not the coaching stuff, but they've been close in several games and it worked out against Nebraska, but several games down the stretch, Penn State didn't work out very well. Michigan didn't work out very well. Where are you with end game, and not even coaching, end game playmaking and finishing games for the University of Iowa?
Yeah, it's unconventional. Let's just say that, just to call the timeout to set your defense with that type of time left, as opposed to offense or preserving your timeouts to make sure you have a possession or something like that. So I would say it's unconventional. I also know that in most basketball circles, he is considered a savant, a coach's coach.
Yes.
I mean, one that coaches go to. When he was at Northwest Missouri State, NBA coaches would ask him to help them do things. So he knows everything. So it's unconventional. And so, if it was somebody else, I might really take some exception to it. But with him, I'm like, eh. But I agree that there are some puzzling decisions. I think Penn State being one, and how they performed down the stretch was just like, what? And Mara's couple of buckets there late, and one was just like, what are you doing? And then another was a really good setup play. In some ways, though, I didn't mind it, because then you get more time and to do your thing, as opposed to them bleeding the clock. I mean, they had the timeout with 51.8 seconds left. Then right after that, they scored with 43 seconds left. So it's like, all right, if you're going to get down, you don't want them to bleed the clock down to 22 seconds. Then they throw it into Mara. He scores, he's fouled. And then, then you've got to do something extraordinary on offense, and because this team needs some clock to run possessions. I mean, there is a huge difference between the way he plays and the way Fran played, and sometimes it's more palatable to watch Fran's offenses, because they were pretty electrifying. But then the defense is no comparison at all. I mean, it is night and day. Where because Iowa wouldn't have won games like this because it couldn't stop anybody, and now they can. It's just the players that they brought in through the portal. I mean, I don't want to get too heavy in this, but Fulgaris, had one rebound and one basket last night. And here's a guy you're paying a lot. I mean, Mark Gronowski money, and it's like, come on.
He was really good against Ohio State. Now that's very, but I think that's the frustrating thing, is because he shows what it can look like, and then last night is last night. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that to me is what frustrates me is you see what he can do, and if he can do it consistently, they need a Robin to the Batman. In order to, if he played the way that he's capable of, if he's a 14 point guy per night, with 6 rebounds, and facilitates the way that a kind of a stretch 4 can, and move things around, then if he's playing that way, then this team is not only capable of maybe making it to at minimum Friday and the Big Ten tournament, but it's capable of making the second weekend in the NCAA tournament. But you can't. It's hard to beat very good teams like this, or in Illinois, or Purdue, or Wisconsin, or any of these other teams, when you have, it's basically you're hoping your try hard guys, Cam Manuel, Tavion Banks, Cale Combs to an extent, certainly Isaiah Howard, and Tate Sage has been a great rookie or freshman, that you're hoping for them to really play above their heads, because your guys that you expect to play well just haven't met that match. And I think that's been the most frustrating thing watching this team, the lack of consistency.
Scott Dochterman joining us from the Athletics. Doc, last thing basketball wise, I want to check with you about some football, but is maybe big picture this. I mean, and I talked to so many people at Carver last night. If they don't beat Nebraska, and let's say they don't do well in the Big Ten tournament, are they, Dayton? Are they Vegas and they don't make this NCAA tournament at all? Or they, if they beat, you win last night, and I think it secures a lot of things. They got another great opportunity against Nebraska, and Nebraska's not nearly as talented as Michigan. It's also probably going to be a buzzsaw out in Nebraska against a team you just beat, and there's a rivalry and all those kind of things. Where are you big picture for the Iowa basketball team? What work do they have to do? They can't lose out. They can't lose Saturday or Sunday and then lose round 1. Then you're uneasy on Selection Sunday, watching and waiting, or you still think, I guess, where are you big picture with what they have to do to get into the NCAA tournament and where they might be?
I think they're in, but you're putting yourself in jeopardy, and it's not, and because as we know, it's not just about what happens, across the board. I mean, we could do the projections now. They're probably a 9 seed today if they lose at Nebraska, and when they lose in the Big Ten tournament, because they're going to lose at some point, then they're, then are they 10 maybe? But beyond that, you're putting yourself in jeopardy because you don't know what's going to happen in other tournaments. I mean, Miami of Ohio, to me, absolutely should be in. Yeah. But what happens if Akron beats them in the championship game for the MAC? That's 2 teams from the MAC. You steal it at large spot, basically. Or, what happens if somebody catches fire in the Big East, or the SEC, a bubble team goes and reclaims that spot, or the Mountain West? You're putting yourself in jeopardy every single time you lose a game like this. And this isn't the one that stands out for me, because if anything, I think this made them a stronger candidate, even with a loss, just by the way they played.
The eye test.
Right. Because it's like, okay, this team's pretty competitive. Even, if this would have been on the road, they would have got smoked, no question. But, they were at home, they played well, they met the moment. It's but they lost at Penn State. Yeah, but they lost to Maryland. Yeah, and that devalues you to the point where you're hoping that teams like somebody in the ACC, an NC State type of run that happened a few years ago. They ended up in the Final Four, but they had to it was like 1983 all over again. They had to win out and then go on, and so you've got to protect yourself against that. So I think if they win one game in the Big Ten tournament, I think they're in.
Yes,
but if they don't, then their backs are against the wall. I will say, though, Matt, that if they somehow fall to a 10 or even 11 and don't play in Dayton, that's a much better position to be in than an 8-9. I mean, not this year especially, because the best 4 teams in this country are way better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about you're an 8 or a 9 and then you're playing Duke, forget it. Playing Michigan again, I don't like that. Arizona, no way. And Florida is playing as well as anybody right now. And if you're playing one of those in the second round, that streak's going to continue. But if you're a 10 and you're playing a 7, and let's say, let's just give it the craziest scenario ever. You're a 10, you're playing a 7, you beat the 7, and you're playing Iowa State in St. Louis in the second round. You got to feel like, all right, you only lost by 4 there. You got to feel like, hey, there's nothing to lose, and we got a lot to gain, and we've got some swag to this one. So playing a 2, or even dare I say being an 11 and beating the 6 and then playing a 3, Iowa can feel like it could compete, but playing that 1 in that second game, forget it. I just don't see that happening.
And Doc, it all goes back to, and I think most Iowa fans would agree, they'd rather be in a Sweet 16. What's the best way to the Sweet 16? And I know it sounds crazy in year 1 under Ben McCollum, but if you make the NCAA tournament, if you win that first game, that's great. It's about getting to that next one, and I think you're exact. How about Dayton? I don't want this for Iowa, but Dayton, Iowa versus TCU, and Brock Harding. And then in the other 16 versus 16 game, maybe Penn gets in this weekend after, and Fran's playing in the other 16 versus 16. How about that for Dayton? Does that work?
Oh my gosh, man. Your mind is way ahead of mine on that, but that would be amazing, especially if they're playing back to back at the same location, like on a Wednesday night or something. And
sharing hotels, Dayton. All that kind of stuff. Oh, that would be interesting to say, right?
Practice times are right before, like France practicing at 1:30, and then Iowa takes the floor at 3:15 or something, and they're like 2 ships passing through the night.
Connor's in the stands. We don't know who. I mean, just it could be a whole big thing. A mutual buddy of ours brought that scenario up to me, and I like it as well. Obviously, tons of basketball to get to March Madness wise. Also, and I'm probably going to steal you and have you back on again in the near future, because you put out a rivalry thing with Big Ten basketball, and I just found out, and I want to read it a little bit, but I want to talk to you about that in the future as well. But you spent last week living in Indianapolis, NFL Combine, I guess before we get into the Iowa guys, maybe an Illinois guy, all that kind of stuff, your Bears, what was the Is there? It's hard to say. Is there a headline from the NFL Combine? Like, what was the talk of the NFL Combine this year? Was it? It's not quarterbacks because the quarterbacks are bad. Was there a topic or two that was on everyone's mind?
Well, I can tell you the person that was on everyone's mind, and he has flaming engine red hair, and somebody put it as slow mo to Freebird in his front of his 40.
America.
Yes. Jennings Dunker stole the show there. I mean, he is the talk about guy. He's been now on all these national shows and stuff, but he was probably the talk of the Combine. But this year was strange because there really wasn't anything that stood out. I mean, like at number one, it's a 99% chance that the Raiders are going to take Fernando Mendoza. And if they don't, then they need to fire themselves. I mean, he is the player, the best player. I think then you start to go, okay, who else is in that category? And then what themes are out there? Who's going to get cut? Who might retire? And really, there was not much news. It was kind of as I've been to, I don't know, probably 10 combines or something. And this year was probably the lightest year when it came to news that I can ever remember. And, that I wrote about Joey Aguiar, who was, he was the Tennessee quarterback who was sued the NCAA and lost. And he was there. Diego Pavia, was interesting. I think if the one headline that I wrote that was really interesting is he's now taking advice from Johnny Manziel, which I would not recommend, but yeah. I thought that was a little odd, but by and large, and then I did kind of a couple of different stories afterwards. I did one that was kind of bigger picture about how the 2026 college football season will go among these players and or these teams and stuff like. And one of the themes I asked, like Dominic Orange from Iowa State, was about Matt Campbell. And, and one of the things he said, I'm a Cyclone for life, but I got a little Nittany lying to me now. And he said, Matt Campbell's the best coach in America. He's sad. It sucks, but, that's kind of the way it goes. And then he kind of was like, now he doesn't have any excuses. Now he's got to win the national title. He's got all the resources. This is Ames, Iowa anymore. And I thought that was pretty funny. And then, for me, it was inescapable to go there and not talk about Iowa guys. Yeah. I mean, and talk to them because there were 9 there, and they were pretty interesting. And then a lot of Ohio State, of course. So, but it was kind of a dry year when it came to news.
I want to ask you which Iowa guys stood out the most, but we might have already answered that with Jennings. But the thoughts, obviously because I'm a Lions fan, that, and talk about a Dan Campbell guy. Like all my Lions, and the thing is, it's funny because all my Lions follows and podcasts that I listen to, they don't have any clue about Jennings Dunker. So this is a revelation to most of these people because they have no idea who he is, and everybody loves him. Jennings obviously turned heads. Maybe talk a little more about him, and then who else among the Iowa guys probably stood out the most when it comes to whether it's the interviews or it's the on the field stuff when it comes to fast, big, strong, all that kind of stuff.
I would say all 3 offensive linemen, really turned heads in some ways. Jennings is just the life of the party. He's the George Kittle of Iowa the last 10 years. And so I think he caught on because of his personality, because of his mullet and just kind of the aura that he is. But I would say from a on-field perspective, if you will, that Logan Jones had an amazing combine, and the questions that have kind of surfaced about him per se is he big enough? And he was 299. He says he plays in the 303 range. I'm sure some teams will want him bulk up a little bit more than that. But I mean, he ran a 4.9 at 300 pounds in the 40, and he was really good at agility wise. He showed some explosiveness in his vertical and broad jump. All those things that don't really matter, but they kind of confirm one way or the other. And I think he solidified himself at minimum of a second night guy, second, third round. Bo Stevens, from the Times perspective and all that, wasn't great, but there's no one I think that fits what an NFL team wants more than him, because he is all business. I mean, you have, in his case, if he's standing next to Jennings Dunker, you literally got business in the front and a party in the back, with those guys. But I compare them like, Dunker's the life of the party. He's George Kittle. Bo Stevens is the most direct, serious. He's articulate, no question about it. Just very, very businesslike. And then Logan Jones, I always said, is like the neighbor you wish you had. It's like, hey, it snowed 5 inches overnight, and you woke up and you're like, oh damn, I got to go out and scoop the sidewalk or get the snowblower out. And then you go out and it's 7:30 and it's already been done for you. It's like, well, I figured I was already out here. I'd do yours for you. These are that type of a guy, But if you're looking for your Lions, any of the three take in a heartbeat. And I think based on the issues at center with, Ragnow's not able to, he tried to come back, but couldn't get passed by the physical. And then Graham Glasgow, I think, is out. And so I think Logan Jones, to me, if he makes it to the third round and you're the Lions, I think he's a plug and play guy. And in year 2 or 3, he can be a really good starter because everybody seems to want Linderbaum. But Linderbaum's going to come with a $20 million price tag, and I know the Lions don't have that kind of jack right now.
It's interesting, Doc, because it's not a premium position. Center isn't, but it's becoming more of that. I don't think it is one, obviously, but it's more important than what people realize. And there's almost a shortage of them. If you look at it, when you look, Bears need one now. Lions still need one. There's teams around the league that need them. It's good to be Tyler Linderbaum right now, but it's good to be Logan Jones. I mean, those type of and it might not mean that maybe it improves your draft stock around or so, knowing that. Your thoughts on the center position, because when it comes to the Bears, Lions, and others, their teams, it feels like there's more of an impetus on centers right now.
No question about it. And you've had some surprise retirements. I mean, Bradley Bozeman retires from the Chargers. You have, Drew Dahlman, which really surprised me. Ragnow would have liked to have come back in the middle of the year and couldn't. There's just and on top of that, there's not really a lot of good center play either. I mean, you got Creed Humphrey and you got Tyler Linderbaum and you got a few others. With Logan specifically, and why I think he's going to work is he's not only incredibly strong. I mean, I don't think people realize, when he squats 700 pounds, I mean, the dude is massive. Hang cleans, second strongest hang clean in Iowa history behind Kristen Wirfs. He's just he's a beast, and he's very athletic. And so I think that translates to most systems. But I think if he played in a system comparable, people call it the Shanahan offense. I just call it the McVay offense too, while you're at it. But there are, a third of the NFL plays that. He would be perfect for it, and he'd be an all-pro or at least a Pro Bowler in it. So, yeah, and Bo Stevens has taken a lot of snaps too. So my guess is for him that, maybe somebody drafts him to be an interior offensive lineman, and then, potentially becomes starts as a guard and then spends all off season next year working on center reps, and maybe he morphs into that position. And, and one other guy that I always felt could make a really good center is Mason Richmond. And, he was a 7th rounder. He was with the Super Bowl champion Seahawks, but he's also, he didn't play much. He was inactive for the Super Bowl, but I think he could probably make that transition because he is smart and respected. And the NFL, it's not just if you can't play in your first year, you're done. So, and if there was one other one that I would throw out there as a Hail Mary type is Aaron Graves. He was a beast as an offensive lineman in high school. And granted, that is a small level of football, but his build and his skill set and his quickness and his physicality, if he gets drafted late and somebody doesn't look at him as like a top, type of a defensive lineman, I think he could make that transition and become a center in years 2 or 3. I saw it firsthand with a player kind of like him and Brian Waters in Kansas City a long time ago when I covered the Chiefs a million years ago. But he started out as like a tight end, and then he moved to guard, and he became a 6-time Pro Bowler. And I'm not suggesting that that's in the cards for Aaron Graves, but I think that's something that I would think is the case, like Matt Nelson, that he just had the right build to play tackle in the NFL. And he's made a career out of that.
And it's not another one is Parker Hesse, different, but going from one side of the ball to the other. A defensive lineman ends up in being a tight end and played several years in the league as well. Scott Dochterman joining us right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. The offensive lineman obviously stood out. Iowa had, 9 guys there, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. What other Hawkeyes kind of stood out, did well? Max Llewellyn, Caden Weegan. Where did you see people walking around going, well, these Iowa guys, this one did pretty well?
I would start with Xavier Wampa because we look at somebody who was a 5-star talent who for the first 3 years probably didn't live up to his expectations, maybe exactly what a 5-star status was. But I think in the back half of his senior year, he played by far his best brand of football and really showed and showcased what he's all about. And I had a chance to talk to him for quite a while there. And, among the things that teams are looking at, because it's not just like, hey, you're a safety and you're going to play safety in the NFL. I mean, every down is a different sub package. And so some have asked him to play, like pass down linebacker. Can you do that? Or can you play, two high safety? Can you play the, strong safety and, on the boundary, just all kinds of different things. And he really fit that. And then you look at, his times, 4.48 in the 40. That shows, shows a lot for somebody his size. He's almost 6'3", he's 210 pounds. And I think he's still relatively young because he's he's a 4th-year guy. And I think with that kind of ability that he has the potential to kind of grow up. And I think some people want to see him gain another 15 pounds and maybe make that transition, but what we'll see. Carson Shire had, really an amazing, combine for being a true linebacker at 231. I mean, he was in the top. I mean, a 40-inch vertical. That's crazy. 4.56 in the 40. He was another one who, finally got a chance to play and really elevated his stock. In the last pack half, he was great. He was the spy on Diego Pavia in the bowl game and did really well there. Weegan for, if some people are saying, oh, his 40 time wasn't that great because it was like, 4.47, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, I think what matters is the tape, and he is really, really raw when it comes to being a receiver, but his kick return ability and punt return ability is off the charts, and his quickness. And in the new NFL, he has a much better chance of being, of people seeing him as a weapon than in the old NFL, because the old NFL or college football, as a kickoff guy, you want in some ways more of a long strider, because you got to get, you get the ball at the goal line, and then you're usually untouched or, don't hit traffic for about, 15 to 18 yards. In his case now, I mean, everybody's standing upright and you can use your juke ability. I compared him to Dante Hall all those years. I mean, he just has the same kind of quickness, lateral skills, speed, lower leg strength. And so I thought he did, he did really well. And then Max Llewellyn, tested for his position. Tested, well, and TJ Hall didn't have the greatest numbers, but he had a lot of both, official and unofficial meetings and stuff with people, with teams there. I think people like him. So out of this group, I did not talk to Drew Stevens, and it's hard with the kickers anyway. I mean, it would not surprise me if all 8 got drafted. And then you throw on Mark Gronowski, who wasn't invited, but a lot of the buzz that I've talked to from people were he was the best player at the East-West Shrine Bowl. And with this quarterback class, which is after Fernando Mendoza, is just, I mean, good luck. If you draft Ty Simpson in the first round, you could have somebody who's going to be really good, or you could have Jake Locker. Great athlete, didn't work out, and all the way down the list. I mean, to Drew Aller, he was good at Penn State, but they also failed in the big moments, and you have all these players that I think, Mark Gronowski also has some flexibility. If you're looking for, a red zone guy who can run pass option, he's to me, somebody you really want to hit up. So if you're Ben Johnson, think about this scenario. If you're Ben Johnson and you're at the 5-yard line and you have Caleb Williams in the shotgun, and to his right is Mark Gronowski, and Caleb gets the snap, hands off to Gronowski, who runs wide and throws. I mean, you have 2 quarterbacks in the backfield, but you've got a guy who's a physical runner. I mean, you could do things like that. In today's NFL, that they're so imaginative, it's not really, stretch your mind to come up with those scenarios. And I think somebody will like Aaron Graves enough to draft him, whether that's defense or what. Who's
the Saints quarterback / tight end? Is Mark Gronowski like
Taysom Hill?
Is that what teams kind of look like him at?
Yeah, absolutely. Because he can play multiple type of roles, and that's what I thought all along. He's the comp that I've used as Taysom Hill, because he just, you can line him up at tight end. He can make catches, or you can line him at the backfield and he can run, or you can put him as, a Tim Tebow type quarterback, but he actually has a better arm. Yeah. We didn't see that early in the year, and I think he was still coming off. I wonder how much the shoulder surgery still impacted him early on. He said it was nerves and stuff like that. But that first game was just like, are you kidding me? We got to live through this again. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of the year, he was pretty good. And so I would expect somebody to have, say, hey, if you're Denver, for instance, and you're Sean Payton and you coached Taysom Hill all those years, and you're like, I got Bo Nix, who I really like. He's my guy. But if I got this guy, and then the one common element among Iowa players that's universal, and I've rarely seen anything out of this line, is they are the highest character. Mm. I mean, and the smart NFL teams understand and have said that, okay, if we get drafted Iowa guys, like basically drafting a second-year guy, it's plug and play. We know what we're going to get, and that's a good thing for us. The dumb ones, not all of them are dumb, but the dumb ones in my eyes look at it and go, well, they've already been coached up. There's not much upside. We can't coach them up, so we don't really want that kind of a player. Well, okay, if you think they're a finished product now, and you're going to take a chance on some guy that's A, got a character concern, B, has been hurt a lot, C, transferred 3 times, and you'd wonder about his motivation, but you think that he's got more potential if you guys coach him up, that you're so special and they're not. I mean, Iowa's coaching staff is better than 80% of the NFL. I mean, if you're an offensive lineman, would you rather work with Kirk Ferentz and George Barnett, or random offensive line coach? 100%. Phil Parker on the defensive backfield, or random NFL defensive back guy, who's 28 and played 5 years in the NFL? No, it's a no-brainer. And that's why I think NIL works for Iowa too, with a Cade Pieper. He had an opportunity. He would have been a top 50 pick. Cade Pieper would have been the number 1 pick out of Iowa's players had he gone to the draft, even after his sophomore year. But you can get better coached at Iowa. Mm-hmm. You can make money now through NIL, so that's not a decision. And then finally, you could become an All-American. You can boost your stock in a way that if you're at a different school, random school, I'm not even going to say any school, then maybe your stock just kind of wanes and you don't reach that, but you're going to get coached up. So I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to gas up Iowa totally here, but I think Iowa is definitely, it is a developmental factory. And most NFL teams respect that to the nth degree.
No, I completely agree. And as a Lions fan, I love it. And they can't draft enough Iowa Hawkeyes for my Detroit Lions. Yeah. Doc, I love this. I love doing it. We're going to bug you again soon, because I want to talk about the rivalry things. So maybe after March Madness simmers down a little bit, we can have you do that. And the draft is going to be here before you know it. And if you ever want another gig, like off the air with Daz and Doc, I know I don't want to take you from Chad, because you guys are killing it, but I could talk with you all day. I appreciate your insight. Thanks so much for doing this once again. And plug the Athletic real quick. You can get everything you want, especially this time of the year. And March Madness is almost, I was saying earlier this week on the show, yes, basketball is March Madness, but this NFL stuff and college football, everything, like football always lives, which is crazy as well.
Yeah. Football season never ends now.
Yeah.
because, and for some people, this time of year is actually more interesting because if their team wasn't any good, I mean, Cleveland Browns fans' real season is from, Groundhog Day through
I'm a Lions
May
fan.
Day.
I'm a Lions fan.
Right.
This usually was my favorite time of the year, so I
Yeah,
get
talk
it.
about who you're going to get. Yeah, top 5 pick. Here we go. Who are we going to get? I think in this case, for us, we have dedicated crew to the NFL draft. I'm among them.
Yeah.
I do a lot with NFL draft. March Madness with basketball. We'll have people at every single NCAA site. I'll be at the Big Ten tournament. I'm not going to go on the road with the NCAA. I might be doing Iowa women first weekend. And you got baseball. So if you're a Cubs fan, specifically, we have a couple of Cubs beat writers. So you've got the confluence of March Madness with basketball, the Major League Baseball season coming up, and then NFL draft. What else do you want? Plus the NBA and NHL, which I'm not quite as in tune with. And college football never ends. I mean, today we've got a big meeting at the White House. There's always something going on in college football. So I stopped by Purdue on my way to the combine, talked to their coaching staff. So I'll have a story out on Purdue later on. So there's always something going on.
You are the best in the business. Scott Dochterman, follow him on X and everything else, and The Athletic as well. Have a good Friday, my friend. We'll see you soon. Thanks, buddy.
Sounds good, Des. Thanks.
All right. That is Scott Dochterman joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. A ton to get to with him, and I can keep going because the NFL stuff for me, and we joke like next week is great times for basketball. You scroll through X next week, and on Monday or whatever free agency begins, and I put the air quotes up, you'll see something crazy happening all the time. It's a great time of year for sports fans. We got more to get to coming up after the break. The voice of the Iowa women, Rob Brooks, will join us from Indianapolis to preview Iowa, Illinois, Part 2. It's a huge Friday edition of Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to head to the break with one of our newest sponsors here on the show, Lindquist Ford. We'll be back right after this. For over 65 years, Lindquist Ford has proudly served the Quad Cities, and they're just getting started. Looking for a new ride? Check out a healthy mix of new and quality pre-owned vehicles ready for you. Need service? Skip the waiting room. With free pickup and delivery and mobile service, they come to you. No delays, no hassle. From routine maintenance to a full-service collision repair shop, it's fast, friendly, reliable, and always transparent. Lindquist Ford, serving the Quad Cities since 1959. Experience the difference today.
Hey, I'm the Crawford guy.
Ooh, do you guys always speak at the same time?
Sorry, guys. I'll go first. If you need help with your heating or air conditioning,
or electrical,
or plumbing, Crawford Company can solve your problem.
But what about your problem?
What problem?
Do you not hear yourselves? Take it from me, the Crawford lady.
And me, the Crawford guy.
Crawford is the comfort company.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. It's a huge weekend for Big Ten basketball for the ladies in Indianapolis, and a big game here in the Quad Cities tonight. It'll be Iowa, Illinois, Part 2, this time in the Big Ten quarterfinals, with the winner moving on to the Big Ten semifinals. And joining me now to talk all about it in Indianapolis, the voice of the Iowa women's basketball team, Rob Brooks, joins us. Thank you for slumming it with me on a Friday morning. I appreciate it.
Come on now. We don't slum anywhere, right? This is big stuff.
Yes, it's going to be fun, man. Tonight is such a great environment. First and foremost, before we get into the game tonight, your thoughts. We just wrapped up a season where Iowa went 15-3, I believe, in the Big Ten. They won 25 games, whatever it is. They had to exceed expectations. Did they exceed your expectations as they enter the season this year?
Yeah, Matt, I think so. I think if you go back to the start of the season, remember this team was the 11th seed in the Big Ten tournament last year. And actually, it's kind of in the position Illinois is. And played 3 games, took Michigan State in the quarterfinals to the wire. And this year now, you're the number 2 seed. You really had some signature victories. And I think 2 things really come to mind is that they've had winning streaks of 9 to start the year, and then there was another round of 8, but now we're at 6 to end the season. And I think you go back to November, where the injury bug really started, and really you go previous to that in the exhibition game when Tegan Mulaney sprained an ankle, and then she was working her way back, had tonsillitis, and had those removed, and never really kind of got going early on in the season. You could imagine an injury and then illness, and then you had Chit Chat Wright go down in Florida with that concussion, upper body problems, and then Kylie Feuerbach slipped near midcourt against UConn and kind of messed up her foot ankle, so she was out a few games. And then you've had Hannah Stalkey out of the lineup a couple of times, and then you had Taylor McCabe go down, unfortunately, with a season-ending injury. So I think that's kind of been the most impressive thing to me is the resilience of this team. And anybody that's coming off the bench, you need to be ready. Foul trouble, injuries, everything's kind of been on the fly. And I think Jan Jensen's done a masterful job in managing all of that. And then obviously credit to the players, and Journey Houston has been a huge part of that because she had to jump into that starting lineup against Purdue, knocked down an early jumper that settled her down. Obviously has played a prominent role. But I think that and the ability to bounce back from the West Coast swing after the Minnesota game are really the 2 things that stick out to me, because it's a talented league, and you can slip into a 4 or 5 game losing streak, maybe go 500 for a month, but this team has not done that.
You mentioned it, Rob. I think it was last year we talked to you out in the Northeast or Northwest, excuse me, and they were losing 5 straight, and people were wondering what was going on. This year's little drought, if you will, or losing streak was limited. It was 3 games, not 5, and everything you just said, Rob. Now I'm biased. You're probably a little biased too, but you gave a great case for Coach Jensen to be the coach of the year. And I know when you go undefeated in the league and all that kind of stuff, it's easy to be the coach of the year. I think you and I might have gone undefeated with the talent that UCLA has. Talk about what Coach Jensen's done, because no, she's not the Big Ten coach of the year, but doggone it, Rob, everything you just said sure does sound like a coach of the year type performance, doesn't it?
Right, it sure does. And you're right. You don't discount an undefeated season. And I think it's really easy to point to coaches that have done a great job managing things throughout the year, get into the top 10. And you're right. If I had a vote, she would have got it. But it's not easy to win every single game in the league. I don't care what talent you have. You go back to some of those great Duke teams, Mike Krzyzewski. Well, you discount that because they won a national championship or they were undefeated or close to it in the ACC. I don't think you do. Sometimes that's the toughest thing in the world to do, even if you have great talent, is to show up every single night. Look at what the Iowa men did last night against Michigan. You get everybody's best shot when you're at that level. And I know Michigan's lost 1 game in the league, but they have a net number 2 and could get to the Final Four. That's what you have to battle through. And you got to give UCLA credit. But yes, Jan Jensen would be my coach of the year. And then I probably Minnesota next, tied with UCLA.
Yeah, we got to get Rob a vote. Can we do that? How does Rob Brooks not get a vote? Rob Brooks joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo right now. Rob, I think we knew last postseason that Ava Hayden was going to be a good basketball player. When did you realize she was going to be a first-team All-Big Ten player and she was going to be what she is right now, which is one of the best players in the Big Ten, and she's just a sophomore?
Well, you're right. It was about this time last year that really burst on the scene. You saw a couple glimpses throughout the regular season last year, and I think one of the things that was detrimental to her season last year was foul trouble. She would get into the game and then would pick up a couple of fouls, so you didn't really get to see her get into the flow probably as much as Iowa would like. But I think coming into this season, based on what she did last year, you knew she was going to have a really good year. Not necessarily first team All Big Ten, but certainly an All Big Ten type of campaign. But once the calendar flipped to conference play, I think she's been better in conference than even in November and December, which is tough to do because overall the competition ramps up. But her consistency, her ability to score in a variety of ways, and what I've really liked here the last couple of weeks is she is not afraid to knock down that elbow 15-footer. You're seeing her take some shots on the wing and making them, and that's only going to get better and better. Has been fierce on the boards. I think you go back to that Michigan game where she showed a little attitude, a little grit toward the end of the game. And Jan Jensen has always preached, we need some of that, and that just goes back to leadership and want and will, and why she's kind of termed this team a blue collar, blue blood. And that's the type of basketball that they want to play. So no surprise as things were coming down the stretch that she was going to get that honor.
Rob, it's funny because I think Ava Hayden's their most talented player, the best player. But Kyle Huseman and I have talked all year that this team kind of goes as Hannah Stolke goes. She's second team All Big Ten. I think she was an All Big Ten selection all 4 seasons at the University of Iowa. She comes in beat up. Coach Jensen talked the other day, and that shoulder or that elbow, it doesn't respond like it does to young healthy people like you and me, I guess, Rob. But no, she's still you and I would be done.
I'd be out 2 years with that probably.
I was gonna say we would be done for our career. What do we know about Hannah? What do you expect about Hannah coming into this weekend? And I know this weekend is important. They want to win every game and all those kind of things, but that NCAA tournament, that bigger tournament is right around the corner as well.
Yeah, especially when you have next week off. And Jan, I haven't talked to her yet. I'll do the pregame show a little afternoon, and she's here, and they're going to shoot around this morning. But it didn't sound real optimistic, did it, when Jan met the media the other day? So I would say 50-50 at best that she would give it a go because, this is important, you're right. But obviously it's not just a pain tolerance thing, as Coach Jensen mentioned. So obviously a little bit more than that. And you don't want to, I don't know if she can re-injure it or make it worse, but you certainly wouldn't want to do that. And then have that rest potentially for the NCAA tournament because they're going to host. They're going to be on probably a 2, probably 3 at worst type of seed line. So that's all solidified. So I would see how it would go and shoot around. And then I know she wants to play, give it a go, but they've played without her before. And if they have to do that tonight, then that's going to be the situation.
It's a perfect segue to my favorite Iowa women's basketball player, and I'm biased because I got to cover for 4 years here in the Quad Cities. But Journey Houston will step in if Hannah can't go and get another start, and she's been one of the most productive. Efficient. I guess efficient is the best word. Whether she gets 19 minutes, 9 minutes, or 29 minutes, she's finding ways to help this basketball team. You've got to watch her this year up close. Have you seen her evolve? Confidence has never been a thing with Journey, and that's a compliment. I mean that in the nicest way. What are your thoughts on what she's done as a freshman and maybe getting another start tonight at the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah, I think right out of the bat, you watched her play, and I saw her a little bit in high school, certainly not as much as you did, and knew what her assets were. but just unfazed by everything. And you saw that early on in the season. And I think she's been as consistent as a player as Iowa's had, especially coming off the bench. You talk about all freshman team. Well, she certainly could have been on that, no problem, especially the way that she played coming down the stretch. But I think she's answered the bell every single time. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Are you ready to come off the bench when your number's called? And she certainly has been. And the thing that she really brings to the table is that ability to come to the free throw line or the elbow and knock down that 15 to 17-foot jumper. And if she happens to miss a couple, she's unfazed by it and will just continue to shoot. And they typically start to go in. But when I watch her um, demeanor never changes. And I think that's a testament to her. Just plays hard and just next play mentality. Never seems to get real high. Doesn't seem to get too low. Just keeps coming at you. And you love a player like that. And obviously she showed the coaching staff something before games even started, that she was going to be part of that rotation, because I'm not sure she was a name that was mentioned as prominently as she has been this year.
You're absolutely right. Rob Brooks joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Let's get to tonight's game. I remember a couple weeks ago, whatever it was, maybe it was last week, at watching the Iowa-Illinois game, and just at the end going, wow, that was a fun, really good basketball game. I'm glad Iowa won. Let's be honest. I'm glad Iowa won, but which probably made it a better game than if they would have lost. But it was a really good basketball team. They get them for the second time in that quick turn. Illinois has been on that court twice and kind of got their footing, but this will be their third game in 3 days. Your thoughts on tonight's game and another matchup between two really good basketball teams right now, two young basketball teams as well.
It was a great game in Iowa City, 82-78, and Illinois just shot the lights out. Just made like their last 9 3-pointers in that game. Hawks had to make free throws down the stretch, but it was one of those intense games, border rivals. Shauna Green, of course, being from the state of Iowa, just north of you up in Clinton, got her coaching career started at Loras College. So, that's an important game for her. And the fact that the atmosphere was just unbelievable that night. It rivaled the Michigan game, too, that really memorable the last few weeks. But you're right. I think this is where, from a tournament standpoint, I think it's an advantage. Say Michigan State won last night. I think it's an advantage to play one before the quarterfinals. I'm not sure it's an advantage to play two. This is kind of where I think the rubber meets the road, potentially, because that's 3 games in 3 days. Yeah, you can always go back to the AAU circuit when they played 5 or 6 games a day. But to do it on this court, this stage, last night came right down to the wire. Coach Green did not play many players, basically 6. So those starters have logged a lot of minutes, and that can be tough. Iowa, I think, kind of found that out last year, getting to that third game, lost a real tight one to Ohio State after beating Wisconsin and Michigan State. But it can be done, and you got to be ready to go, because it seems like some teams have been here for 3 or 4 days. We just got here yesterday. So you hit the court, you got to be ready from the get-go and not let things get away from you early, because you've got a hungry, confident team in Illinois, and they've got all day to kind of get their feet up, get a massage, and get ready to roll. Game doesn't start till 6:30 out here.
Yeah, Rob, you look at it, and we talked about how great a job Coach Jensen's doing. Shauna Green, you mentioned she's from Clinton. She became the program's second all-time winningest coach with 84 victories already in 4 seasons. Now, that also talks to the fact that it's been a struggle for our Illinois women's basketball for a while. But this coaching matchup, and you saw her up close, she's intense, she's fiery, and she gave Iowa all they could handle, and her team, obviously, last week. Talk about this coaching matchup, because I think Coach Jensen is, as we've already talked about, one of the best coaches in the nation. Shauna Green's quickly becoming one of those Big Ten coaches that you have to talk about. She's doing a great job.
For sure. And it didn't take long. She had all that success at Dayton her first year, and then brought a lot of those players with her. So in this day and age, if you have got the right players and can get them that first year, you can turn it pretty quick. And you're right, fiery, intense, but a really good X's and O's coach, and has a system down now, and is recruited to that. It's why it's going to be interesting tonight, because remember, Ava Hayden had to come out and defend that perimeter, and they kind of went offense defense toward the end because Illinois was knocking down so many 3-pointers. They weren't as good or shot as many last night against Michigan State, 6 out of 14. But that's a tough matchup for a post player to have to come out on the perimeter, because the bigs for Illinois can shoot the three, and also will put it on the floor and get to the rim. So that'll be an interesting matchup if Hannah can't go, especially how Iowa attacks that defensively, whether they play some zone or will try to match up on the perimeter. That help side defense is going to be really key. So that'll be something to watch early.
A few more for Rob Brooks before we let him go in beautiful Indianapolis this morning. Rob, big picture wise for this, if Iowa takes care of business tonight, it's most likely a Michigan matchup. Yes, they have to win, and then probably a UCLA in the championship game if things hold to form. Big picture wise, what's the vibe in Indianapolis? Is it big bad UCLA coming to claim their trophy? You mentioned Iowa obviously wants to play well. Winning a championship would be great, but kind of the cake is baked kind of for them when it comes to maybe what's going to happen in, a couple weeks in the Selection Sunday or a week and a half in Selection Sunday. What's the vibe, big picture? Is it everybody talk about UCLA, or how does this thing look in your view?
I think everybody's kind of attacked it as wide open, and then who would face UCLA on Sunday. Of course, won it last year, got to the Final Four a season ago. So, yeah, a lot of the talk is about the Bruins. But I think the fun things about this type of tournament is, you're right, most teams at the top of the league have already solidified what they're going to do. Their NCAA status is certainly clear. But then you've got the teams like in Illinois, potentially, Michigan State before last night. Ohio State certainly can improve their seeding as they march on. And I think Minnesota, those 4 or 5 game, that's going to be a really, really fun game to watch today. And I think that's the fun part. And always a lot of the talk of the tournament is, okay, teams that are maybe on the bubble, trying to increase their seeding, start to make a run. And that really starts today. This is always the most fun day of any tournament, in my opinion, the quarterfinals. You get 2 afternoon games and then 2 evening games. And once you get to the semifinals, it's kind of weeded itself out. But it'll be interesting to see who can advance today to get to semifinal Saturday.
Well said. Rob Brooks, before we let you go, Indianapolis, I love Indianapolis. I think it's the best place for the Big Ten tournament to be, whether it's men's, women's, whatever it is. Obviously, Illinois is not a long trip. Indiana's done. Purdue's not relevant. When it comes to crowd wise, the Iowa fans travel so well. Iowa women's basketball selling out Carver Hawkeye Arena, being around town, maybe in the gym this morning. Are you seeing black and gold? Do you expect a lot of black and gold when it comes to tonight's game and maybe this weekend in Indianapolis?
Well, I agree with you. This is a great host. In my 10 years, 8 of them have been here, and then the 2 in Minneapolis, going to Vegas next year, and then Detroit the year after. So this is it for a while as far as Indianapolis is concerned. But it is. Everything's right downtown, all the hotels and the restaurants, and the arena's right up the street. So it's really, really easy. But of course, the black and gold is here. You can't walk out the door, go down the street 2 blocks without a Go Hawks. And so they will show out. It's not like it was in the Caitlin Clark era when you couldn't even get into the door and the fans were wrapped around then the Target Center up there, and then one time here. But there certainly will be a huge contingent of black and gold. And I think there'll be some Illinois fans as well. But as we saw at Wisconsin and many other places around the league, the Iowa fans love to travel, love this type of environment where, hey, you potentially can be here for 3 or 4 days to see Iowa women's basketball. But they're also basketball fans, and I know a lot of them came early and went to the games yesterday, and certainly be ready to go tonight.
He's Rob Brooks. He'll be on the call tonight, 5:30. I do this all the time in football season. I do it in basketball season as well. Put the game on the TV. If you're home tonight, you get a nice early dinner. No meat for you good Catholics out there. But put YouTube on or radio. But I always put YouTube on another TV and I match them up. And I don't listen to the knuckleheads on ESPN that don't know what's going on. I listen to the sweet sounds of Rob Brooks calling it an Iowa women's basketball game. Enjoy your day in Indy. Enjoy the basketball. Have a great call, Rob. And we'll catch up with you again soon. I always appreciate you doing this. And you do such a better job than when John Marks comes on. I always have to say that.
Well, no, I don't know about that.
People
he's
love
a veteran.
He's a
radio TV veteran.
Veteran is the nice way of saying he's old. He's just old is all he is. So, Rob, I appreciate you.
I'll catch up with Johnny during baseball season, I'm sure.
As always. Appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bud. Yep. Thanks.
Right.
Take care.
That is Rob Brooks, the voice of the Iowa women's basketball team. It is a great game tonight. What a great it's awful outside. There's supposed to be like nasty weather tonight here in the Quad Cities. So get an early dinner. Iowa, Illinois, 5:30. Tons of great basketball on, but that one should be a really good one. And it was a great game last week at Carver Hawkeye Arena, going down to the wire. And Shauna Green's been on the show. I can't say enough about what she's done with the Illinois basketball program. So it'll be a fantastic game. Probably no Hannah Stolke. Rob said, 50-50 or less. I would, we don't know yet, but you probably want to err on the side of caution. So that would be a big advantage for the Fighting Illini for sure. So we got a lot more to get to coming up after the break. We will talk a little Cyclones. They're looking to snap a 2-game losing streak. Senior night is coming up, senior day coming up. And the Iowa State women played yesterday and lost in the Big 12 tournament. So we'll look at their outlook for what the NCAA tournament might look like for them with Jake Brend. It's coming up next right here on a Friday edition of OTA. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak, with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo, now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off Date with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. A busy Friday here on the show. If you're just tuning in, shame on you. You're missing a lot. Scott Dochterman joined us at the start of the show to talk about the Iowa-Michigan game yesterday and also the NFL Combine, which he was at last week for like 6 or 7 days. I didn't mean to do the stupid thing. 6 days. We'll just go with 6. So great stuff with him. Rob Brooks just joined us from Indianapolis, previewing Iowa and Illinois in the women's Big Ten tournament coming up later tonight. And it's Friday, and we almost made it through the week. Almost made it through the week without talking about the Cyclones. And people have been on me. They want to know where Jake Brend is, and he's been vacationing. He didn't care. March be damned. It doesn't matter if it's March. You're gonna take a little vacation, right? A little extra stay in Arizona.
Yeah, it was half and half. I was there for work, and I stayed a couple extra days for vacation.
Good for you. What'd you do?
Went to some baseball games, drank some beer, watched some baseball, drank some beer, ate some good food,
drank some more beer, watched some more baseball. Good for you.
Yeah, it was a good trip.
Cubs, Sox, who?
Yeah, so I went and saw the Cubs play Team Italy on Tuesday, which was really fun.
Yeah.
And then we were going to go watch Team USA play the next day, but we were deciding, should we go golf or should we go to this baseball game? And we're like, we'll decide in the morning. And then we woke up in the morning and tickets had tripled. So it was like $90 to go sit in the grass. We're whatever. So we went to an Angels Italy game. They were like $5 tickets.
Did you golf?
No, I didn't. This is the hardest time of year to golf down there because it's the nicest time of the year. Like their February, March is like their May and June for us. So the prices are all jacked up and renting clubs and all that stuff. So I haven't even hit the range yet, so it would have been bad anyways.
You know what? I've come to the determination. I kind of want your life. Like I want to do the things you get to do. So I'm going to live vicariously through you from now on. So well done, young man. Iowa State, losers of 2 straight. We talked to you last week, and shame on us because we probably did it, but we kind of almost overlooked the Texas Tech game a little bit.
Yeah.
And went to Arizona. I guess we'll start with Texas Tech. That's still a really good basketball team. And without Toppin and everything else. And you had mentioned that. Surprised, disappointed. What were your thoughts on last Saturday at Hilton Coliseum?
Yeah, a little bit of both. And I think we even admitted on the show that, I'm overlooking Texas Tech, but you still know with a guy like Christian Anderson and the shooters that they have that they're capable. And they shot the lights out. They made some really, really difficult shots in the second half. I guess I was just disappointed in Iowa State's ability to not be in the game in that first half because they played well enough in the second half to win that game. The problem is they just had to play perfect, and that didn't happen. And that was a wake-up call that led into Monday. And I thought Iowa State showed up in Tucson and played like their season was on the line. I thought they rebounded the toughest they had all year. I thought they were playing really tough defense. They just couldn't buy a shot, and that was the story of the game. Whether it was wide open, whether it was contested, Arizona certainly had so much to do with that. They just couldn't put the ball in the basket, and all those other little things don't really matter if you can't put up points.
It's a 2-game losing streak, and you look at it, and Iowa has a 2-game losing streak, and one loss you feel awful about. The other one last night, you're like, okay. I mean, it's battling Michigan to the end. What are your thoughts on this losing streak? Because, disappointing a little bit at home against Texas Tech, but as you just mentioned, a really good Texas Tech team. Like that team can be a Sweet 16 team. It could be I mean, with Toppin, it could have been a Final Four team. And then obviously going to Arizona, one of the best teams in the country, losing there. Where are you at? What kind of losing streak is this? And not all two-game losing streaks are the same. I don't think this one is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I think it's concerning in the sense that when you're looking at March and making a run for 4 games, if you're trying to get to a Final Four, you're trying to get to an Elite Eight, and you got to win 3 games. You look at the teams that can find so many different ways to win. And I still think this Iowa State team is one of those that can win in so many different ways, but they've also been proving that they can lose in a lot of different ways too. I thought their loss at Texas Tech was they just came out and Tech was more desperate. I don't think Iowa State was ready for it. They didn't have as much energy, and that's why they lost. Could that happen to a 14 seed or a 15 seed in the NCAA tournament? I would certainly hope not, but games at TCU and at Cincinnati have kind of proven that could be the case. And then there's the Arizona one where you couldn't win the game because you couldn't buy a shot and because another team was able to mostly lock down Mila Momcilovic and force Joshua Jefferson to do too much. So I guess my concern level is you're seeing more and more ways for Iowa State to lose these games, and they haven't been that close either. That's probably the most concerning part of that is what it can do to the ceiling, because I think the highest ceilings in March are the teams that can just consistently find different ways to win 5 different types of games.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Jake Brend joining us right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. Jake, you look at it this weekend they can bounce back. They have senior day, and it's just different in separate ways. Obviously, it's a big game. Get back on track. Arizona State team that just did beat Kansas, so not a bad basketball team to say the least. But it is senior day, and you're saying goodbye to some special players. I guess talk about that first. What's that going to be like? Forget the basketball side of things. Some guys that you're going to remember in Cyclone lore for decades to come.
Yeah, regardless of how this season wraps up, and obviously the further you go in March, the more and more this team is cemented in Cyclone history. But even if they're a first round exit, which I would hope they aren't, it's still going to be one of the most successful 2-year stretches in Iowa State history. And guys like Nate Heisey and Joshua Jefferson were key contributors on both of those teams. So that's going to be emotional for the fan base to say goodbye to those guys, but it won't come close to what Eamon Lipsey, who's one of 22 major college basketball players that is participating in senior day after being at one school the entire time. And he's an Ames kid. He is the first recruit of the TJ Altenberger era. He committed on his 3rd day on the job. Like, he is an Iowa State Cyclone through and through. He's a player that is the type of player that you want your kids to watch. You watch him just throwing himself around the floor for loose balls and offensive rebounds, even though he's 6'2". Like, he means a lot to that building. That building means a lot to him, and that's going to be an emotional one. Probably the most emotional senior day since George Niang a decade ago.
Wow, that's great points. You look at it, Jake, and it's a must win. I mean, you want to get back on track. You want to change things before the postseason begins. Arizona State is coming off an impressive victory and not void of talent, but it's a very winnable basketball game. Your thoughts on the floor wise? The emotion itself should carry the day, but your thoughts on X's and O's and what challenges maybe Arizona presents?
Yeah, I mean, Arizona State has a guy by the name of Mo Odom that is just a lethal guard who can create a shot. Even though he doesn't look the part, he looks like he's 5'9", 150 pounds, but he finds ways to get to his spots all the time, and he is a dynamic shot maker. The good news for Iowa State, this Arizona State team has been pretty bad on the road. They've won 4 straight home games. So they've made things interesting when you talk about the Bobby Hurley hot seat conversation, but they haven't been a very good road team so far, and I'm guessing a lot of that starts on the defensive end. This should be a day where Iowa State's able to name their score. Like, all right, we want to get to 83. Let's get to 83. And it has to be a day where you find ways to get Mila Momcilovic and Joshua Jefferson back in a rhythm, because you can have your other guys playing well. We all know Taman Lipsey will bring it each and every night. The role players will be role players. They'll be good one night and okay the other night. You can't go anywhere in March if your 2 best players, your 2 top scorers, your 2 NBA players don't have it. So that's what I'm looking for. I want to see Jefferson and Momcilovic back in their midseason groove when they were both looking like All-American players.
Jake, where are you at? I'd asked Scott Dochterman where, like, if Iowa wins, loses, where are they at in the tournament, out of the tournament? It's different for Iowa State. They're in, not breaking any headlines. Are they a 2? Are they a 3? What do they need to do to get to beat a 2? Where do you have that situation right now as we get ready for the senior or the last game of the regular season?
Yeah, I feel like they're probably either the top three, one of the first 3 seeds, or potentially the last 2 seed if you're looking at Lenardi and all the experts. But again, Lenardi and all the experts had Iowa State as a 2 seed heading into that early reveal, and they were a 1 seed. So to me, it seems like you absolutely, of course, have to win this game, and probably go and win 2 in Kansas City, potentially 3. But I think either way, you're going to be in that 2 or 3 seed range, and I don't think the last 2 and the first 3 makes a massive difference, like as big of a difference as we would think. But you'd obviously rather be a 2 seed. The path to the Sweet 16 is statistically higher, but you're thinking who you play in that Sweet 16. I feel like you're probably going to be in the Midwest either way. So if you're the 2 seed, you might be playing Michigan State as the 3. And if you're a 3 seed, you might be playing Michigan State as the 2. It seems that close to me.
Wow. Yeah. And I was wondering, like, that's the location is probably St. Louis regardless. Is the
I
thought?
think so. Yeah, because KU's fallen off quite a bit.
Where will Illinois end up right now?
Maybe it won't be St. Louis, because Illinois will be in St. Louis, and Illinois is ahead of Iowa State. So the key for Iowa State is being ahead of Nebraska. But Nebraska also has OKC, which I don't know the geography on the difference between getting to OKC and St. Louis from Nebraska, but it's probably pretty close. So maybe Nebraska will go to OKC regardless.
Okay. Gotcha. Jake Brend joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. The Iowa State women lost last night. So they finished 10-8, I think, in the Big 12. Did I didn't watch the game. I'm not going to pretend they did. Did they shoot 36 threes?
Yeah.
And is
they
that
only made
something,
7 of them.
Yeah. Is that something they want to do? Like, I think Audie Crooks only shot the ball 12 times. Is that right?
Yeah, they were crashing on Audie, and the strategy of Arizona State's coaching staff was, we're going to crash and make them beat us from the outside. And it obviously worked on Thursday night. I would take my chances still with Ariana Jackson and Kenzie Hare and Jada Williams and Addie Brown shooting the 3, but they didn't do it well at all. And I thought, as much as the shooting percentages look bad, I thought this was a defensive problem. It looks to me like Iowa State got out hustled. They just got straight up beat. They cut it to 6 early in the second half and gave up 3 straight uncontested threes. And that to me felt like the game. It was just a really bad game all around by the Cyclones. And who knows? Maybe the good news is it bumps them down to a 10 seed. For all we know, they could have been a 9, and I'd much rather be a 10 than a 9. But I think the whole fan base and everyone's really disappointed that they're not making an extended run down in Kansas City.
Yeah, it's and the thing too is, and that's kind of what Iowa is like for the men. Sometimes you almost want to, like Doc talked about, maybe a 10 or an 11 is actually better than being an 8 or 9 because of the power. And that's the same thing with women's basketball. Those top seeds are really good, and it can be tough to see in the second round of the NCAA tournament. What does your weeks look like ahead? Obviously, you'll be at the Hilton this weekend. Yep. Kansas City?
Yeah, so I'll go down to Kansas City, I think pretty early Tuesday morning. We'll wait to see when team practice shoot-around is. And then, I'll be down there till they lose. I'll be at Hilton on Selection Sunday to talk to the team about the draw. And then I'll drive or fly out to wherever I need to go for the first weekend in the NCAA tournament, and then hopefully see where I'm heading for the second weekend as well.
You are living a good life, Jake Brend. That is 100% for sure. Last week I asked you your Final Four. Has anything changed in your Final Four?
Ooh,
probably. I did ask you, didn't I? I did, right?
Yeah, you did. I know I said Iowa State and Illinois.
Still in it?
I don't think I would say Iowa State at this point.
Is Illinois still
I'm leaning. I think I'm leaning more and more chalk at this point.
It's okay.
I think I would throw Florida in there. They'd probably be the one that replaces Iowa State for me. So I want to say I said Duke Arizona,
Illinois.
Iowa State, Illinois. I still think Michigan's going to get knocked off. I don't completely trust them, but I also, like, if you look at all the bracketology, it looks like their region is most likely, if you're looking at the top 3 seeds, going to be Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa State. And you still trust Michigan the most out of those teams, but I really do think if that Iowa State team that showed up Monday night is just hitting 10% more of their shots, like they might have won that game because they played horrible and were still in it with Arizona. So I'm stalling to think of what my answer will be, but I'll go Michigan State in the Final Four.
Talk about out of nowhere.
Way off the board. It's
Izzo.
It's Izzo. Nobody's expecting him to do it, which means that he'll do it.
Yeah.
It's when Izzo's the first overall seed, that's when they get knocked off. So I'll go Duke, Arizona, Michigan State, Florida.
Put it in stone. That's exactly what it is. From Jake Brend's mouth to God's ears is usually how things work. Enjoy the peanut butter and toast. The champions dinner or lunch, I should say. And we'll catch up with you next week. I'll have to figure out your craziness, but we'll hook up sometime in Kansas City. Always appreciate you, my friend.
The Cyclones will probably be playing during your show, so we'll have to figure that out.
Do a live look with you.
And
then we get in trouble. So, all right, my friend, we'll catch up soon. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, Dazzo.
All right, that is Jake Brend. Cyclone Fanatic is where you can find everything you need when it comes to Iowa State Cyclone stuff. I had people come to me all the time here in the eastern side of the state, and that you do too much Iowa. I watch the show, but Jake is here. 1, 2. Like, go to Cyclone Fanatic, go to the YouTube channel, all those kind of things. The best place to go when it comes to the coverage of the Iowa State Cyclones. We're going to take one more quick time out, and then when we get back, we'll wrap things up for the week. It's been a great week. We'll do that. Also, go check and make sure nothing crazy happened in the NFL or anything else. So we'll pay some bills, and we'll be back to do that right after this.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities, a jam-packed Friday here on OTA. Really, before we leave, I want to talk about the Maquoketa girls real fast. They've been on the show several times. Fantastic young ladies, 3 of them. Kendall Coleman, Aubrey Kramer, and Cora Wydell have been on the show, and they've done a great job. And we talked on Wednesday about them going back to Des Moines for not 1 but 2 games. Wow, what a game last night, or yesterday afternoon, I should say. They trailed by as many as 14. Came back, won 61-54 over Des Moines Christian. So they are in the state championship game tonight, 8 o'clock. And 8 o'clock usually means probably later than 8 o'clock with trophies and everything else that go on through the day. It's a long day at the Wells Fargo Arena. Is that still what it is? I think it's changed names, so don't yell at me if it has. So they're back at it tonight against number 1 Mount Vernon. We wish those ladies the best of luck, regardless win or lose, and I think they're going to win. But regardless of that, we're hoping to have them on the show Monday, maybe Tuesday next week as well, kind of get caught up with them. But it's been a magical ride for Maquoketa. It's the first time a Maquoketa girls team in any sport has played for a state championship. So again, we wish them the best of luck tonight. So that's 8 o'clock. Remember, it's Iowa and Illinois women's basketball from the Big Ten tournament, 5:30. Rob Brooks was on the show. So if you missed that, go check it out. Great preview with him, but he'll have the call on the Hawkeye Radio Network. So go to YouTube, put in Hawkeye Radio Network, and match your TV screens. And if Anger was here, which by the way we're gonna get back on next week, we've given him enough time off to regroup from football and everything else. But he always, well, you got more than one TV. Yes, I got 5 TVs in the basement. I'm crazy. My wife's a great lady, but to allow me to do it. But you put one on the YouTube and you put the other one on the game, and then you turn the TV one down, and the YouTube one you put it to the sweet sounds of Rob Brooks. Trust me, I do it for football and basketball. It's much, much better. So best of luck to the Hawkeyes and the Illini tonight, and we'll see who moves on to most likely take on Michigan, and then UCLA is probably waiting on Sunday for somebody. So we'll keep you locked and wrap that up coming up on Monday as well. Scott Dochterman was on the show, and he killed it, as always. So much to get to with him. Iowa, Michigan, great wrap from him. We were both at the game yesterday. Then he talked a lot of NFL Combine. The Hawkeyes shined in Indianapolis last week. So 8, probably 9 with Mark Gronowski. Hawkeyes drafted in April. We're going to start our draft coverage with T-Roy coming up in the next few weeks as well as we get ready for the NFL draft. We'll probably do another show on the road as well. We'll have more on that in the upcoming weeks as well. And then also thank you to Jake Brend for joining us, talking some Cyclones. He'll be on the road next week as well, but we'll get caught up with Jake Brend throughout the week as well. Thank you guys for watching the entire week. It's been a super fun week. Check out any of the shows you missed them Tuesday through Friday, and we'll be back Monday through Friday next week with a whole bunch of shows. The NFL free agency starts next week. That's going to be wild. So I do pre-record a segment here or there to make it available for guests and all those kind of things. So it's gonna be hard to do next week because there's gonna be stuff going on all the time. So NFL will be crazy next week. March Madness is in full swing. A lot to get to here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. So keep it locked here. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you guys next week on Monday. Have a great weekend, and thanks for watching OTA.